Really, sometimes the small projects are what can take a space from feeling unfinished to feeling like home. I just moved across the country, leaving behind my house and 5 years of projects. And now my husband and I are starting over in an apartment. With a baby on the way, I'm figuring out how to make the space feel like home, one project at a time.
Life is a winding road.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my channel. This week I am finishing up my rental living room makeover. If you are new here, I am just trying to do a quick little makeover to the space to make it feel a little more put together and cozy, because in the next few months, 8 weeks, to be exact, I have a feeling I'm going to be spending a lot of time in here. And so far I have flipped a hutch for the space, and then in my last video I built a coffee table. And now all that is left to do is a bunch of small projects to put the final touches on the space. So with all of that being said, let's get into it. After going through my list of projects that I have left to do, I realized I had 5 projects left. So I thought that was the perfect excuse to bring back a format I love to do on my channel, which is 5 DIYs in 5 days. One of the reasons I love this format for myself is because it forces me to slow down a little bit and not try to tackle everything all at once. The other reason I love this format is because I think it shows you guys that even spending 2 hours tackling a project can really make such a difference. And you don't have to do these giant renovations to make a difference in a space. Really, sometimes the small projects are what can take a space from feeling unfinished to feeling like home. Because I am in a rental, all of these projects are rental friendly. Unless you're one of those people that commented on my last 5 DIYs in 5 days video where you can't put holes in your wall, I'm very sorry. I've never lived in a rental where I couldn't put holes in the wall and hang things up. As long as, you patch the holes when you leave, you're good. And I've always gotten my security deposit back. So whenever I do this, I like to work in a strategic order. So I'm gonna start with what I am going to refer to as the TV wall. Now, you might be noticing that my TV wall is lacking a TV. I fixed that and I got a TV. But before I hang this TV up, I am going to be adding a frame for my TV. I really like putting frames on TVs. I think it adds just like a nice little decorative touch. And actually, I am headed to my mom's today so that I can use my miter saw to build this frame. Now, if you don't have a miter saw, there's 2 ways you can still do this project. You can either get a saw with a miter box, and because you're working with pretty flimsy, thin trim, cutting through the trim with a handsaw wouldn't be a big deal, or most large home improvement stores have a miter saw. So go there with your measurements, have them cut down your trim, and bring it back to your space to put the frame together. So I'm gonna gather my things and let's head to my mom's. I just got to my mom's house. I'm gonna go get my miter saw set up, and I also brought the TV that I got so that while I'm doing these cuts, I can check that they are actually working around the screen perfectly, because obviously if you're building a frame for around a screen, your cuts have to be pretty precise. Okay, so the screen, you can't really see it, but it actually starts like there. So I'm gonna remove this just a little bit, just so I can see where the screen actually starts. 37 exactly. Okay, cool. 20 3/4. Perfect. Full beans. Okay, my first 4 pieces are cut down. I'm gonna quickly get the first 4 pieces attached before I cut my final 4 pieces so that I can double check measurements and all of that. To get these first 4 pieces attached, I am actually gonna be using a little bit of hot glue at the corners. If you've never used hot glue and wood, they actually work really well together, and the hot glue dries really, really quickly. But to reinforce the corners and not just use hot glue, I'm also gonna use some flat L-shaped brackets. So I just went ahead and cut my final 4 pieces, and when I build a frame for a TV, this is actually the 3rd frame I've built for a TV, I like to use a chair rail trim because it starts out thin and then it gets a little thicker, and that edge being a little thicker makes it so that I can attach some flat trim. This trim is to cover up the sides of the TV just a little bit, and then I also got a 1-inch trim so that I can attach this to the bottom. It'll have the same look, but it won't cover up the speaker. And to get this trim attached, I'm actually just going to be using hot glue to make this beginner friendly. I'm gonna let that hot glue sit for a little bit, and once it's officially dry, I'm gonna go ahead and spray paint this frame black. Deep breaths before I start talking. Good morning, guys. So after I got my frame together yesterday, I realized I couldn't finish it up at my mom's because I forgot 2 very important things: spackle and caulk. My bad. So I brought the frame back here so that I could do some cleanup work before I painted. I used spackle at the corners to cover up any slight gaps that there were, and then I used caulk to cover up the gap between the 2 different trims that I have. Once all of that was dry, I went ahead and spray painted the frame black to have a nice dark base, and then I later went over that with Rust-Oleum's metallic accent paint to give this frame a nice brushed brass look. And having that black base creates a nice depth to the color of the frame. And then, because pregnancy brain is a real thing, I forgot to do 2 things that I should have done yesterday, but I just quickly went ahead and did them this morning. I used a scrap piece of trim and I glued it to the back of the frame. That little piece of trim is gonna hold the frame at the correct height because it's gonna rest on the top of the TV. And then I went ahead and drilled a small little hole in the frame. That hole is lined up with the sensor on the TV so that the remote and the sensor are connected and they're reading, you know, so that I can use my remote. And then finally, to finish up this frame, to actually hold the frame on the TV once it's on the wall, I stapled some 1-inch thick elastic to the back of the frame. So now that my frame is done, I'm gonna go ahead and get my TV installed. There we go. That's level. Now let's see if these holes line up with any studs. That would be convenient. I need this to line up with 2 studs. Okay, there's a stud there. Yay! Okay guys, before I move on from this TV project, I am going to be adding some sconces to this wall, mainly because we do need more lighting in this room. Currently all we have is this floor lamp and it's just not cutting it. I definitely need some more lighting. The other reason is because this wall is very tall. I don't know how tall it is, but it extends up and up to the loft space. When you have a really tall wall, adding sconces around some artwork or a TV can be a good way to anchor the wall and anchor the space down. I went with these sconces because they were very budget friendly and they had a pretty cord. So I'm just gonna let that hang down and get them plugged in since I can't do any hard wiring since I'm in a rental. So I'm gonna quickly get these hung up and then we can move on to the second DIY. Okay, it is time for the second DIY. And when I design out spaces, I am definitely somebody who is willing to make some design sacrifices, you know, going with things that aren't potentially my favorite choice, but I'm willing to make some sacrifices for those that I love. And in this case, I'm talking about my cat. Yes, I love you. So I have been trying to figure out a way to add some cat elements to this space, especially because, you know, their world is about to change pretty drastically. And I don't really have space for like a traditional cat tree. So I have some leftover brackets from the shelves that I hung up in my dining area, and I thought I could use these brackets to create a cat shelf. I plan on putting this shelf between my TV and my fireplace. So this project should be pretty quick and pretty easy. I determined that I want my cat shelf to be 18 by 12 inches. I have this scrap piece of plywood. I'm gonna get it cut down and then we can go from there. Shelf piece cut down. So I am going to do a very quick little upholstery to this shelf. My cats do not like super plushy surfaces to sleep on. So I'm gonna do one layer of batting, and then over the batting, I went with some leftover fabric I have from a previous project. I know my cats love this fabric because I use these on chairs and they slept on those chairs all the time. So let's get some batting stapled down. Now that I have batting attached, I am going to cut a piece, do the same thing with the batting, and then cut a piece, fold it, and staple it to the bottom so that the bottom also looks nice. And then we can go and get this attached to the wall. Shelf is wrapped in fabric, and now I can go ahead and get it installed. I'm probably gonna put it about there, and because I already roughly know where the studs are in this wall, I know I'm not gonna hit any studs for where I need to put the brackets, so I'm using some 75-pound drywall anchors. That should be enough to hold up a 20-pound panther. That's my heaviest cat. Ultimate test. Can you support a panther? You can support a panther. Oh, perfect, and panther can get down. It can support a tiger. Now, can it support a floof? It can support a floof. Yay! Good morning, guys. My cats are obsessed with their cat shelf. Usually it takes my cats like a few days or even like a few weeks to warm up to new things that are for them, because I have built them a lot of different things, but not this shelf. They started using it right away. At one point, Bonnie was sleeping on it last night, then Clyde was sleeping on it. I'm so happy they like it. So we're moving on from the TV wall, and I am going to be working on my fireplace today. This is a little bit of a tricky fireplace. At least it's been a little tricky for me. One, where the fireplace ends and where there's like kind of like a mantle, it's really up high. My original plan was I was hoping to put a TV up there, but then once I got here and saw how high up it is, I was like, yeah, a TV would be very uncomfortable to watch at that height. And then also, this fireplace is in a corner, so I don't even have like a flat wall to work against where I can like hang a piece of art and call it a day. So since I am working with a very high up mantle and then I'm also working with a corner, I do like the idea of just doing a piece of art, a large piece of art up there, but I have to build a stand for this art to fit on. This is an old frame that I got in an antique store several years ago, and I thought it was the perfect size to kind of just fill up the space for this fireplace. I have not planned out this stand, but in my mind it's gonna be very, very simple. simple. And I'm hoping that I even have some pieces over in my scrap pile of wood that don't even need to be cut down. We need to make it about 25 inches tall. It's about 10 inches-ish. Yeah, because it'll sit like this, and then it'll lean back a little bit, and about 18 inches wide. Okay, I'm gonna go through my scrap pile of wood and see if I can find pieces that will work to put together this stand. I only had to do one cut, and that was so that these two pieces were the same length, but these were already cut to the same length and these were already cut to the same length because they're scraps from the same project. So to build this frame, I'm gonna take these two boards. I don't actually know how long these are, but they seem long enough. They're 24 inches, which is perfect. So I'm gonna do 2 pocket holes on one side of each board and get them attached to these boards. Some pocket holes are drilled out. Now, you can buy some stands that hold up frames. What I was running into and why I'm building one is that I could not find one that was big enough. They have a bunch of small ones that are like 12 inches, but that wasn't gonna cut it for what I needed. First 2 pieces are attached. Now you guys can probably start to see my vision for this very simple stand I'm building. I'm gonna take my final 2 boards, do 2 pocket holes on each side, and then get them attached at the top, and then 1 board at the bottom. My very simple stand is almost complete. Let's see if this works. It should work perfectly fine. It works, yay! So the final thing that I'm gonna do to create a little stopper at the bottom so that the frame can push against it and, you know, not move around. I'm just gonna take some screws. I'm not gonna sink them all the way down. I'm just gonna sink them like half of the way down, and then those screws will act as little stoppers so that the frame doesn't move around. Yay, it is perfect. Let's go pop some art in this frame. Good morning, guys. It is day 4. Yeah, and these projects are just gonna keep getting easier and easier. So today's project is another one that I made the choice for those that I love. In this case, I am talking about my husband. If you are new here, this little buddy right here was not planned. And so now I have to turn our second bedroom into a nursery. My original plan was to do like an office/music/library room for my husband. And now I have to figure out how to sprinkle my husband's things throughout this apartment. And one thing I've been trying to figure out where to put is his instruments. Now, he doesn't have a ton of instruments, but you know, he's got more than just like a guitar. So we've got a guitar, 2 banjos, and 2 violins, and then I have one of his other violins hanging up in our room. So 6 instruments in total. So I thought this wall right here, going up the stairs, because it's also right by his books, would be the perfect spot to do kind of like a little instrument gallery wall. I think this will be a nice, fun, easy project. I'm hoping I hit a few studs, but if I don't, we'll pop some drywall anchors in. Those should be plenty strong enough to hold up these instruments. And yeah, let's get to work. I'm gonna start with the guitar because it's the biggest instrument, and I think it's also the one that's gonna pop off the wall the most. So I want it like more over this way so that it's not in the way on the stairs. Perfect. First instrument. And now I'm gonna grab the other 4 and kind of just start playing around with how I want to place the other ones and create this gallery wall. I think I'm just gonna have them cascade up the stairs. Yay! Good morning, guys. It is day 5, which means it is time for the 5th and final project. Now, some people might not consider this its own project, but I think if you are truly a beginner, even doing something like this can feel intimidating. So I'm going to be hanging some curtains on this patio door. Now, I was on the fence as to whether I was going to do this because it's a door and not a window, but I decided to go with this for a few reasons. One, the curtains are gonna cover up these outdated blinds that I really wanna get covered up. And then 2, I think this is really gonna just soften this whole wall and really round out the space. Hanging curtains can be one of the easiest ways you can elevate the look of your space and also just customize it and make it feel cozy. Just don't go with curtains that have grommets. That never looks good. So I'm gonna get to work and let's finish up this living room. Now, I can't go super wide and extend the curtains out from this door because of the fireplace, but I'm gonna try to extend these out as far as I can. Well, guess we'll pop this off. Make sure this is straight. I just have to do one more bracket in the middle for support. Oh yeah, that is so pretty. And that is it, guys. This quick little living room makeover is exactly what I wanted. It feels cozy, it feels put together, and it feels like home. And I can definitely see myself spending a lot of time in here taking care of a baby. My other mission of making my kitchen, my dining room, my entryway, and my living room feel put together and functional is also complete, which feels even better. And I finished with just enough time to tackle this little boy's nursery. Just enough time. We've got 6 weeks to go, something like that. We're getting down to the wire. But I hope this video showed you that, again, small projects taking 15 minutes to hang some curtains can really make such a difference. All of these projects were very, very easy. They didn't take days. They didn't even take the entire day that I worked on them. Hanging curtains took 15 minutes. Doing a little gallery wall of instruments took maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and it completely transformed the space. Also, adding very custom, personalized elements to your space can really just make a space feel like home. Again, like adding instruments that are my husband's, or even a silly little cat shelf for my cats. And I have a feeling I'm gonna have to figure out how to add an additional cat shelf because I've got 2 cats that are fighting over the one shelf currently. But out of all of the projects that I did, my favorite project was by far my TV. That definitely rounded out this space. It added something to this wall. It's decorative. It adds more lighting with the sconces. I absolutely love it. But I would love to know, out of all 5 projects, which one was your favorite? As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. I have to go get started on a nursery, so I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.